Bulbasaur has a bulb on its back, which is the term used for the early stages of plants, much like how Bulbasaur is an early stage Pokemon. The suffix "saur" is because of dinosaur, something the entire evolutionary line shares. However, there's a bit of a discrepancy with the "saur" part in its name, as it doesn't have that in Japanese, and the entire line is more akin to a frog than a dinosaur. Ivysaur is just because of the ivy plant, while Venusaur is a bit more ambiguous. The Venus part could be referenced to the Venus flytrap plant, or possibly from the word venom due to its part poison typing. Charmander has the prefix char, which is to partially burn an object, while the mander part comes from salamander, the real-world animal that Charmander drew its influence from. For Charmeleon, we have the same char as well as melion, which comes from chameleon, another reptile, although outside of having a slight physical resemblance to a chameleon, Charmeleon doesn't share many other qualities with them. As for Charizard, it's just char and lizard. Its Japanese name is just Lizardon, which shows that they kept with the lizard theming in English as well. Squirtle is a combination of the word squirt, like a squirt gun, and turtle. Wartortle isn't as obvious, as the ending part is a combination of the words turtle and tortoise, but the war part could be from warrior, which fits with its final form being a cannon. As for Blastoise, it's just a combination of the word blast, like a water blast, and tortoise. Caterpie is a caterpillar, and its name is just a shortened version of that. Metapod's name comes from metamorphosis, which is the process in which an animal changes form in the middle of its life, like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. As for the pod part, it's literally a pod. Butterfree is a combination of the words butterfly and free. Some of these are very obvious, of course, but we got some more interesting ones coming up later. Weedle is a combination of the words worm and needle, with the later part alluding to its future evolutions. Kakuna is literally just a cocoon. Biologically, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have this turn into a bee, and Beedrill's name is just because it's a bee with some drills. Pidgey's just a pigeon, not much else to that. Pidgeotto is a bigger pigeon, but it's still pretty small. The otto suffix in Italian is for small, similar to how we would use the et ending like for piglet for a small pig. Pidgeot is a big pigeon with the geot part in its name sounding like the word jet, just altered to fit with the naming scheme of the evolutionary line to accompany the word pigeon. Rattata is just the word rat with part of the word attack at the end of it to fit with its aggressive nature. Raticate is just the latter part of the word eradicate. Spearow is a combination of the words spear and sparrow, which is the type of bird that it's based off of. The spear part is more prevalent with its evolution Fearo's beak, but replaces the spear prefix with fear because it's a giant bird with a spear for a beak, which is pretty scary. Ekans is just snake backwards, and that's like the most known one. And then Arbok is just cobra backwards, but with a K instead of a C. Pikachu shares its name in Japanese, which comes from the words pika pika, the Japanese onomatopoeia for a sparkling-like sound, and chew, which is the sound that a mouse makes, and Pikachu is a mouse. Raichu shares the chu suffix as Pikachu, but Rai comes from the Japanese word for thunder. Sandshrew is a shrew that likes playing in the sand. And Sandslash also likes sand and has these long claws that are capable of slashing. Nidoran has the same name in Japanese, with the Nido part meaning twice, hence the two versions of them in the male and female form, and the Ran part at the end because they like to run. Nidorino is loosely based off of the rhinoceros, with Nidorina just changing the O to an A to appear more feminine. And for Nidoking and Nidoqueen, well, there's two of them, and one's a king, one's a queen. Clefairy comes from the words clef, which is a symbol used in music to go along with its ability to sing, and fairy because it's a fairy. Clefable shares the prefix clef, with the fable part coming from the word fable, which are fictional stories depicting things like animals, legendary beasts, and of course fairies. Vulpix is where things get a bit less obvious. The Vol part could be from Vulcan, the Roman god of fire, or possibly Vulpes, which is Latin for fox, and the IX ending comes from the number of tails it has, which is 6. Ninetales is not only for its 9 tails, but the tails part of the name is spelled T-A-L-E-S, like fairy tales, and is based off the Japanese mythical fox known as the Kyubiko. Jigglypuff is a combination of the words jiggle and puff because it's a puffy balloon, while Wigglytuff is wiggle and tough because it's a stronger Jigglypuff. Zubat is literally a bat, hence the bat part of the latter half of its name, but it shares its name in Japanese with the zu part coming from the Japanese word zubato, meaning to pierce something. The Ghoul in Golbat comes from the word ghoul or possibly gore. Oddish is literally an odd radish. Gloom is a play on the words gloomy or to be sad, and bloom, which is another word for a flower when it starts to grow. Vileplume is a combination of the words vile to fit with its poison typing, and plume, like a plume of smoke, to go along with the gas that sprays from its head. Paris is derived from the word parasite, which fits the theme of its evolution, as if you don't know, the whole thing behind Parasect is the fact that it's basically a parasitic zombie, while Parasect is a combination of the words parasite and insect. Venonat is a venomous gnat, and its evolution Venomoth is a venomous moth. Diglett gets its name because it's a mole that likes to dig and has the ET suffix like we talked about a little bit earlier, which means little. As for Dugtrio, it also likes to dig, and there's 3 of them now, hence the trio. Meowth is a combination of the words meow, since it's a cat, and the ending part of the word wealth to show its affinity for money, specifically coins. Persian is a weird one to me because it's based off the Persian cat, which just has the same exact spelling. I'm surprised they didn't spell it Persian like P-U-R-S-I-N to go with like a purring cat, but it still fits. Psyduck is because it's a psychic duck, despite not being a psychic type Pokemon. Golduck is a combination of the words gold and duck, with the gold part coming from the color gold being used to describe psychic activities. Mankey is a mad monkey that just combines those 2 words for its name, while Primeape is the prime ape. Growlithe is a combination of the words growl and lith, with growl being the sound a dog makes of course, and lith which means to be flexible or to have grace like a dancer would. I think this is more seen in the anime where Growlithe is a more elegant Pokemon and a Pokemon that James had while growing up. Arcanine is a combination of the words arcane, which is a mysterious seeking, alluding to the legend surrounding Arcanine, and the word canine because it's a dog. Poliwag comes from Poliwag, which is what tadpoles used to be called. The entire line shares that prefix structure, with Poliwhirl having the whirl part for the whirl on its stomach as well as Whirlpool for its water typing, and Poliwrath is for its wrath being a fighting type. Abra, Kadabra, and Alakazam all come from terms used by magicians in Magic when performing a magic trick. Machop and its evolutions have the mach part of its name come from the word macho meaning strong in Spanish, while the chop part is a reference to a karate chop for its fighting typing. Machoke has choke to reference a chokehold that a fighter would use, and Machamp is the fighting champion, hence the belt. Bellsprout is just a combination of the words bell, since it looks like a bell, and sprout like a plant would do. Weepinbell is also a bell, and the weeping part is like crying, but also for a weeping tree where its branches bend over on themselves. Kind of a weird Pokemon all around since a bell plant that's crying. Victory Bell is from the words victory, tree, and bell, although the bell part of its name only has 1 L because of the character limitations in Generation 1. Tentacool is a reference to its tentacles and because it's cool, while Tentacruel is just, well, cruel and not cool. Geodude is just a little dude, and Geo is a common prefix when used to talk about things that come from the earth, like rocks. Graveler comes from the words gravel and possibly grappler because of its big arms. Golem is literally just a golem, which is a structure created from rock or clay. Ponyta is from the words pony, of course, and the Spanish word bonita, which means pretty. That's a word I used to describe your mother pretty often. Rapidash is a fast horse, or rapid horse, with the suffix ash in reference to its fire typing. Slowpoke comes from the word slowpoke to describe somebody who is slow. Slowbro is a combination of the words slow and brother. Magnemite is a combination of the words magnet and mite, as in a small bug. Magneton is also a word used to describe magnetic movement, and the Pokemon Magneton is just 3 Magnemites that move together. Farfetch'd comes from the English expression far-fetched, meaning unbelievable. In Japanese, there is an expression with a similar meaning, roughly translating to a duck that comes bearing spring onions, which is literally what Farfetch'd is. Dodo is based off the dodo bird, and the duo part is for the 2 heads. And then Dodrio is also a dodo, but has 3 heads. Seal is just a seal with 2 E's and no A. There's really not much else to it. Dugong comes from dugong, spelled with a U, which is just a sea mammal. Not as widely known as seal, but these 2 Pokemon are literally just animals with slightly different spelling changes in their name. Grimer is a play on the words grime, which is to describe dirt or filth. Muck wait a sec, wrong one. Muck comes from the words muck with a C to describe waste matter, which is more commonly used in England. Shelter comes from the word shell, as it's literally a shell, and shelter. Cloyster is a combination of the words clam and oyster. I feel silly for not piecing that together before making this video. Ghastly is just the word ghastly without the H, which means to be scary, but also the gas part references its poison typing. Haunter is just because it's a haunting ghost. And Gengar comes from the German word Doppelganger, or ghostly double of a person, with the common theory being that Gengar is just Clefairy's ghostly double. Onyx comes from onyx with a Y, which is a type of mineral or rock, just don't tell Hank. Drowsy is an altered spelling of the word drowsy, or to be tired, while hypno is a shortened version of hypnosis. Krabby is a crab, not much else there. And Kingler is a king crab, more specifically a fiddler crab, hence the ER at the end, which have longer claws. Voltorb comes from the words volt, like a volt of electricity from its electric typing, and orb because, well, it's an orb. While Electrode comes from the words electric and explode because electrodes like to explode. Execute is a play on the word execute and a bunch of eggs that are kinda cute, I guess. Then for Exeggutor, it's just the word executor spelled differently. Cubone is a combination of the words cub because it's a small bear and bone. Marowak comes from marrow like bone marrow and whack because it'll whack you with one of its big bones. Hitmonlee is because it likes to hit things and it's a fighter, and the Lee part comes from Bruce Lee, while Hitmonchan has the Chan part from Jackie Chan. Of course, these aren't exactly influences for their design, just their English names. Lickitung has a giant tongue and likes to lick things. I'm sure you could see where the name comes from. Coughing is an altered spelling of the word coughing, while wheezing is just like wheezing when you're sick. Interestingly though, it's rumored that these Pokemon were going to be named Nye and La respectively to reference the pollution and poor air quality in New York City and Los Angeles. Rhyhorn combines the words rhinoceros and horn, while Rhydon has the don suffix, which is a reference to dinosaurs. Chansey is the lucky Pokemon, with its Japanese name just being lucky, so in English they referenced that, made it a bit more subtle, hence Chansey. Tangela is just a tangled mess with shoes. Kangaskhan is a weird one to me because it sounds a lot like Genghis Khan, a Mongolian ruler known for his brutality, but the Kanga part is also like kangaroo with the pouch for the child that it has in its belly as well. Genghis Khan wasn't particularly fond of children though, so I always found this one to be weird. Horsey is just seahorse with the syllables swapped around, and Seadra is a seahorse crossed with the word Hydra, which is an aquatic mythical creature. Goldeen is a combination of the words goldfish and queen, while Sea King is just a fish that is king of the sea and is also a really awesome Pokemon. Staryu are just the words star and you combined, while Starmie are just star and me combined. Mr. Mime is a mime, and formally you just call him Mr. I don't know what else to say here. Scyther gets its name because of the scythe-like arms that it has. Jinx comes from the word jinx with an I, which is a superstition for bad luck. Electabuzz combines the words electric for its typing and buzz, which is a sound that electricity sometimes makes. Magmar comes from the words magma and Fulmar, which is a type of seabird. Pinsir is just a different spelling of the word pincer. Tauros comes from the Greek word for bull. Magikarp comes from the word magic and carp, the fish is based off of. Gyarados has the best name origin. According to Ken Sugimori, Gyarados' name doesn't have a specific origin and was chosen merely for its force. I don't really know what that means, but it sounds pretty cool. Lapras has one of the more interesting origin stories for its name as well. It's based off Pierre-Simon Laplace, a French mathematician who wrote books about the properties of the sea. Laplace also sounds like the French words Laplace, I don't know if I'm saying any of this right, meaning seat, much like how Lapras has a seat on its back when you go through it on the sea. Ditto is literally just ditto, a copy or imitation. Eevee is just the first two letters of evolution, E and V, with evolving being Eevee's whole gimmick. Vaporeon is a water type and has vapor to reference that, with Eon coming from how long evolution takes place naturally, a suffix that all the evolutions share. Jolteon has jolt because of a jolt of electricity for its electric typing, and then Flareon has flare like fire for its typing. Porygon is a digital 3D polygon with a name being a play on the word polygon. Ammonite comes from the Ammonite, which is spelled differently but sounds exactly the same, which are fossils that look like Ammonite. Amistar also comes from Ammonite and adds star at the end of it, as its body somewhat resembles a star. Kabuto shares its English name with its Japanese name, coming from the Japanese word for helmet and horseshoe crab. Kabutops shares the same origins as Kabuto for the first part of its name, but with the tops part coming from triops, a suffix used for some prehistoric animals. Aerodactyl comes from the Greek word aero, meaning air, and dactyl because it's based off a pterodactyl. Snorlax is just the words snore and relax mashed together. Articuno is an ice type, so its name has Arctic to reference the ice, and Uno, which is the Spanish word for one, because it's part of a trio with Zapdos, whose suffix dos is two in Spanish and has zap for electricity. And then Moltres has molt as in molten like lava for its fire typing, and Trace, which is the Spanish word for three, rounding out this trio. Dratini comes from the words dragon and tiny because it's just a tiny little dragon. Dragonair comes from the words dragon and air, but could also be because of lair, or the last three letters of the word lair, since it doesn't fly around and dragons are known to be found in their lairs. Dragonite comes from Draconite, which is a mythical stone that is said to be found inside the heads of dragons and resembles Dragonite's horn, or it could also be because of the words dragon and knight combined. Mewtwo is just a clone of Mew, so it's just called Mewtwo. Weird how it's before Mew in the Pokedex though. Then Mew comes from the word mutation, since Mew is heavily tied to genetics. For a bonus, we have Missing No, and in case you didn't know the name origin for Missing No, it just stands for missing number, since the glitch Pokemon and should be missing. So that's how all 151 original Pokemon got their names in English. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Pokemon videos, check out some of my other Pokemon videos, or just don't, I guess. It's up to you.